Hello, welcome to Better Late Than Ever. We have a new week. We're in a new year. 2023 came, 22 gone. But what's interesting is that we finally hit 100 subscribers. So I wanted to say thank you to everyone that has been following my big wave journey. I've been appreciating the support. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead and click that like and subscribe button, as I would continuously love the support. And this week's vlog is actually going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be a little different. On Instagram, I've been getting a lot of DMs from some people asking me about what type of training, what type of breathing do I do. And so I'm actually going to go over some mindful breathing techniques and really talk about what you can do to build your CO2 tolerance when it comes to holding your breath for long periods of time. So I'm going to talk about just not only from a static standpoint, but also in the water. So stay tuned and grab your favorite drink and let's get started. Hello everybody, welcome to this little edition of Mindful Breathing. I think that there's going to be a lot of great information that I'm going to be sharing with you all, especially if you want to kind of take your breath holds a little bit to the next level to really help you in really bad situations when you're out surfing. There's also some great techniques in here that you could use every day. I'm going to be talking about, different types of breathing. And another thing too that I just wanted to share is that there's just so many great benefits when you actually breathe through your nose. And when we breathe through our nose, what we do is we actually strengthen our diaphragm. And our diaphragm is the main muscle that helps support our respiratory system. And, when we breathe through the nose, it gives us more oxygen to the blood. It strengthens our diaphragm. And on top of that, it also strengthens our lung capacity. And plus there's other great benefits that you get. It really helps lower your heart rate. It helps stress and it lowers anxiety. So there's just so many great benefits that you can get from breathing. And sit back and let's get started. All right, one thing that you guys have to think about when we're talking about surfing to free diving to static breathing. All of these three things are completely different. Even though we are breathing and we're training our body to understand a high CO2 level, but you have to think about with static apnea and with free diving is that you are in a controlled state. You're able to lower your heart rate all the time compared to when you're surfing. Whenever you're out in the water surfing, you are basically kind of working in a plyometric way where you're constantly you're having your peaks and you're having your lows. So basically you could be sitting in the water having a pretty low heart rate. Let's say a good rule of thumb could be anywhere between 70 to 90 beats per minute. Then immediately when you catch that wave, you're going to be going from that heart rate spiking up to, I would say, anywhere from 160 to 180, maybe even to 200, depending on how your adrenaline is already going and how fast you're moving. So when you're already doing that, your body is already burning tons of O2. So when you're holding your breath, you have to think about how high that CO2 is going to be and how bad that's burning is going to get you. So that's why you have to find out a way. If you have a pool, definitely do a lot more water workouts than doing something that is more static based. Yes, you can also be above water and you could do certain workouts as in doing, you could run and try and hold your breath. Definitely, whenever you're doing these sort of techniques, you want to have people watch you because you can black out. You could definitely hurt yourself, especially if you fall. So when you're doing any sort of workouts above water, definitely you can do jumping jacks, you can do jump rope, anything that's going to elevate the heart rate. Then you could sit down and hold your breath and count it for however long you want to go. I truly believe that we as surfers, we don't need to be able to hold our breath for 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, it's a good tool to have, but there's been studies that Red Bull has done, and the longest that a wave is going to hold you down is roughly around 15 to 20 seconds. So that's really not that long. But when you're underwater and you're getting worked and you're getting all, thrown all over the place, you're going to definitely be a little dazed and a little confused and a little panicky. I mean, even 5 or 6 seconds feels like eternity underwater. But if you're able to hold your breath for at least that long, you should be okay. The number one thing that is going to make you feel good and feel confident is your training. The training is what's going to make you a better person mentally and physically. So that's why I recommend doing these sort of exercises. For instance, if you want a good training program to work with, especially when you're working with water, I would definitely say look into Deep End Fitness. Deep End Fitness is hands down one of the best water programs that's out there, even though it's not built for the surfer, but it has a lot of connections for surfing because you're constantly going from a low to high heart rate, and you're able to understand and really gain strength of controlling that high CO2 tolerance because you're constantly in a fast pace where your body is wanting oxygen, and it's able to this program is able to push you to where you want to go. I do it, and I know that they're starting to pop up all over the place. So if that is something that you would want to do and you want to push your surfing to the next level with your breathing, definitely look into Deep End Fitness. Another program too is if you are frequently going to Hawaii, there is a company called Hawaii Eco Divers that is owned by a gentleman by the name of Ricardo, who actually has a great apnea class. And he's a phenomenal big wave surfer. He's my mentor. I would look him up and work with him. And then there's obviously other programs such as BRAG, which is the Big Wave Risk Assessment Group. They don't really go into a strong detail, but they do have segments in there that do help you work on your breathing. So those are just things that you could think about. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go into our breathing. Talking about static apnea. And when we're talking about apnea. Now, static apnea is basically anything that you're doing above water. Apnea could be considered something that you're doing in water. Now, one thing that you have to think about too is that when you're above water, our lungs are able to be expand, and then when we go into water, they basically get compressed. So all this oxygen is being forced, and it's almost feeling like you have a vice grip that's basically pushing everything together. So when you're working above water, you're going to be able to hold your breath a little bit longer than you will in water. And the reason why is just because how I talked about the compression. Even though, yes, eventually you'll be able to hold your breath for long periods of time, but that's why it's kind of like where you got to get somewhat acclimated when it comes into water. So for instance, for me, whenever before I go surf, what I do first above water is I hyperventilate real quick to basically bring in oxygen to the body. Then I'll do some breathing exercises. But then once I get into the water, I'll even do it again a little bit because everything changes. And you'll notice that and you'll feel that when you move from land to water. And so one thing that I always suggest is that whenever you're doing any sort of breathing exercises is to make sure that you have someone watching you. Definitely do not do it standing up, because if you do it standing up, there's a possibility that you're gonna black out. And what's really fun about doing these sort of techniques is, it could be something that, whenever you're at a party and you could bet somebody about how long you could hold your breath, and it could be pretty fun, but at the same time, you don't wanna hurt yourself. So definitely make sure that you're doing these sort of exercises when you are with supervision. Definitely have some pillows around or whatever, just in case if you really want to go super nuts and really want to push the body. But what I'm going to be talking about first is just on how to really work your diaphragm. Like how I mentioned before, the diaphragm is the main muscle that supports the respiratory system. So the best way to really get everything going is to really strengthen this a little bit, exercise it, bring some oxygen into the body, and then we'll go into a basically like kind of like a workout that I like to do whenever I'm doing any sort of breath work when I'm at home. So the first one that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna work on the diaphragm. So first what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna breathe in some air, then I'm gonna push it out, and then from there I'm going to exercise my diaphragm by pushing it out and then pushing it in, pushing it out, pushing it in. Here we go. So roughly I do that about 10 times, and then from there, then I go into a full-on stretch. Now I really feel that when we're doing these sort of exercises that you definitely want to stretch the lungs, and this is a good way to really get things going in the morning. So this is another thing that I do. I always like to kind of, take a glass of water in the morning, then I'll go into this sort of stretch, and we'll go ahead and go through this stretch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start first pretty much from the same exact thing as we're gonna take a deep breath, and then with that deep breath we are going to stretch, and it goes something like this. All right, so that basically is a good stretch to really kind of get the lungs going. Then from there, what we can do is we can go into a breathing table. Now, a breathing table is basically something that whenever you are breathing air in, holding it, then breathing out, holding it, and then breathing again. So basically you have to think about a box. So you are inhaling, holding, exhaling, exhaling, then holding, then inhale again, and then basically you're going through a whole entire cycle of doing that. What a good technique is when you're doing this is I always like to start off by doing anything from a 10 by 10 to a 6 by 6, and so that's basically just 6 seconds, 10 seconds. Usually I think a 6 seconds is a pretty good rule of thumb. Obviously, if you're pretty new, don't try and push yourself too much, because all you're doing is what the box is you're just getting your body acclimated with oxygen and trying to basically get it to be accustomed to the high CO2 level. So basically it kind of goes something like this. So that's basically what box breathing is. Then from the box breathing, as you do that for a while, I'd say a good rule of thumb is do that for about a good 3 minutes. Get the body into the oxygen state to where when you start going into the static side, then you'll be able to push the body a little bit further. Now we'll go ahead and we'll talk about static breathing. Now with static breathing, what you're going to be able to do is, this is a good way. So there's different types of tables. You have an O2 table and you have a CO2 table. The O2 table is basically going to go in different types of forms, the same exact thing with an O2 table. So you want to be careful because you do not want to do these sort of exercises within a certain amount of time frame. So what I always like to do is, if I'm working on a CO2 table, I will do that for 1 week, and then the following week I'll just work on O2, because you're going to be pushing yourself a little bit differently comparing the two, and you can get, it's just really not good for you to basically balance and doing everything, you know, within the same time of whenever you're breathing. If you really want, you can actually do a CO2 table one day and then maybe go into an O2 table the next. I always like to spread everything around. I don't try to do everything too much because I don't want to cause harm to my lungs. So for instance, 1 week what I'll do is I will breathe, I'll do a CO2 table on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'll take a break for a couple days. Then I will start the O2 table again, a new O2 table on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I do that, and so far that's been pretty much a good rule of thumb for me. I mean, everyone's different. Everyone can push themselves differently, but I think if you are, you know, pretty new, try not to do it too much. And yeah, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we will go into a, we'll start off into a CO2 table. All right, so I'm not going to go through the whole entire tables just for time's sake, because it would take forever. So what I'm going to do is, in the description, I'm actually going to write everything down for you for your CO2 table and your O2 table. But however, I will explain on how it works. So first, what you're going to do, we'll start off with the CO2 table. You're going to breathe up for 2 minutes. Then from that 2 minutes, you're going to hold your breath for 2 minutes. Then you're going to go back and breathe up again for 1 minute and 45. Then you're going to hold your breath for 2 minutes. Then you're going to breathe up for 1 minute and 30. And then you're basically going to hold your breath for 2 minutes. So the whole point is what you're doing is every time that you go, you're subtracting 15 seconds. Your whole entire goal is to get to breathe up just for only 15 seconds and holding your breath for 2 minutes. It's going to be super uncomfortable. It's gonna burn. This is a burner, but it's great. This is what's going to help you to build that high CO2 tolerance. Now, with your O2 table, it's going to be almost something kind of similar, but we're just going to reverse certain things and we're adding on 15 seconds. So you'll breathe up for 2 minutes, then hold your breath for 1 minute and 30. Okay? Then you go over, breathe up again for another 2 minutes, then you're going to hold your breath for 1 minute and 45. So you're basically going to be doing that. Your whole entire goal is to breathe up for 2 minutes and then try to hold your breath for 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Yes, you're still building a CO2 tolerance, but you are still maintaining that same consistent breathe up for your O2. If you have any questions, please write into the comments and I will try and answer everything the best way that I can. And I'll also show you some good water workouts into what I do, and I'll even explain that through the voiceover. So thank you so much for watching this, and I hope you guys really benefit from a lot of this, and I hope that you really push the limit. So if you have any questions, please, you can DM me or you can put everything into the comments and I'll answer the best way that I can. So we'll see you soon. This is one thing that I truly love about doing these sort of water workouts, is that they really help push you mentally when it comes to your CO2 tolerance. But just not only that, it really puts you in a uncomfortable state. And that's the whole entire point of why I like incorporating these sort of water workouts into my routine of when I do training. I definitely recommend that you do it with someone that can watch you. However, another good rule of thumb that you could do is, like I said, look into Deep End Fitness. Deep End Fitness basically has these sort of workouts that they bring into their routine, and the whole entire point is to really push you mentally, to really put you in an uncomfortable state. Because, you know, when we surf, we're always put in really uncomfortable situations, especially when we're trying to get up for oxygen. And these sort of workouts really help push you into really pushing the boundaries when it comes to breathing. So you could do these sort of workouts in any sort of pool. You don't need a super deep one. You could do it at a pool at any local gym. And I would really encourage you to really start bringing this sort of training into your routine, because you will really see a whole lot different, or you feel a lot different when it comes to your training and with overall in your breathing. You'll feel a lot more confident, you'll feel a lot stronger, and this is basically what will help strengthen your overall training and your mental state. That is the number one thing that is most important. So I just want to say thank you so much for just listening to what I have to say, and hopefully these sort of workouts will help you through your whole entire journey. Talk about a long vlog, right? Holy cow. However, there was a lot of great information in there that I hope you guys will learn and take with you and really bring into your workout, into your training for your breath holds. And so I can't wait to hear your guys' stories. And so first off, I want to say thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, watch more videos. And if you have any questions, like I said, please write them in the comments. I will respond back to you. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys on the next one. So take care. Happy New Year. Thank you for all the following. We finally, like I said, we hit 100 subscribers, and I hope to keep on bringing good content to you guys. Have a good week. See you guys soon. Hui.